Hello, welcome back to Swans Cast match preview. We haven't done too many of these recently, been slacking, I know, since the beginning of December, but we are back ahead of the Sunderland game. I know you're shaking your head there. Unfortunately, we went down with that mysterious flu that seems to be going around everywhere. It was definitely going around everywhere in Swansea. I don't know if it's hit up
It,
north as well, but
it has.
knocked us for six it have over the last month, and then obviously Christmas is all action. So, but we're back to it, ahead of Sunderland. Actually, the last one I did was after I got better, and I'd already pre-agreed to do one for Watford, and that went well. That was a good match. So maybe I'm premeditating another 4-0 win.
This is where I need to leave just to make sure that doesn't happen.
No, I'm only joking. I'm sure I had nothing to do with it. But yeah, thanks for joining me again, Graham, for a little bit of chat ahead of Swansea's trip up north to Sunderland. And we did just discuss that you've got a podcast yourself, and I said I'm not going to have a go at telling everyone what it is. So if you'd like to tell everyone where they can find your stuff as well, if they'd like to listen.
Of course, so it's really arrogantly named after my name. It's What the Falk, but full disclosure, it was a university project that just went a little bit too far. So it's got no Sunderland connotations in the name, unfortunately. So I've kind of extended it to What the Falk, an independent Sunderland podcast. But yeah, it is What the Falk, which is something that unfortunately now I cannot change, but I kind of secretly wish I could.
It's all right. I think it's quite a clever play on words there, isn't it? And obviously, you're the person behind there, so it's you're what you're going there for, really, isn't it? And your views. So it's a good name, definitely.
It's why we get no listeners, you see.
Anyway, so looking at the football, then obviously we just come off the back of FA Cup round. We just spoke actually on your podcast. If anyone does want to jump onto that, I'll try and link it in the video below. But I believe we both had a draw in the FA Cup. That is correct. Both got replays that perhaps we weren't necessarily wanting.
No, we won.
It's against teams in the same. You won.
We won.
Oh, I'm lying. I'm looking at the Blackpool game. Sorry, we got a draw. You got a win. You got Shrewsbury, didn't you? Sorry. Correct that. So anyway, would you like to tell me a little bit about how you played? That's what I was going to ask, really.
So the Shrewsbury game was a bit of a weird one because if I'm completely frank with you, I know you should never say this when you're a fan, but I didn't really care. Like, we're not going to win the FA Cup. So, like, a trip to Shrewsbury away was just like, and I'm sure it was boring for Shrewsbury as well. We just recently played each other. Yeah. The last thing I want to remember is League One, and it reminded me of League One. The one player that I really like that used to play for Sunderland that is now at Shrewsbury couldn't play because he's cup tied, because he's on, well, he's not cup tied, he's on loan from Sunderland, which is called Winchester. So I didn't even get the privilege of seeing the lovely Winnie Esther, as we used to so lovingly call him. But it ended up being great. We were totally dominant throughout the whole game. We should have had a penalty. It's one of the funniest penalty decisions not given I've ever seen. It's just brilliant. I mean, he literally stamps on his foot, and you can see Patrick Roberts fall to the floor because his foot has been stood on, and the ref's like, no, dive. And you look at the view the ref has, and it's a wonderful view. But as weird as I say all that, we were actually getting beat 1-0 up until like the 91st minute, which is just weird. We battered them second half, and then they got a goal from a set piece, which was like a typical League One big guy getting in on the set piece kind of goal, which we thought we got rid of. But then we scored in the 92nd and the 94th minute to win the game.
That's crazy.
Was kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, I had my mistake. I had the Blackpool game up on my tab. I was looking at that, and obviously that was 1-1, wasn't it? We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's why I was referring to when I was saying about the two draws. But yeah, the Shrewsbury game, I didn't realise you scored two last-minute goals to snatch that one. So a dominant performance, and you only just snuck over the line in the end.
Yeah, basically, it was really weird. It was like, I think Tony Mowbray said in the post-match press conference, he said, look, if we'd lost the game 1-0, I would have still been quite happy with stuff. I would have just been disappointed we didn't hit the target when we should have done. And I think a lot of Sunderland fans felt that way. Like, I was literally at the shop buying some food for like the shopping, and I was like, oh, 1-0, brilliant. Oh, well, no FA Cup this year, I guess. And then I kind of thought, I was watching it. Well, actually, I was in Japan that day, as the VPN will tell you, watching the end of the game.
Was that a good trip?
Very short, very short. They've got co-ops there as well, weirdly enough. So I was in the co-op in Japan, watching via my VPN, and seeing us score 2 goals in the last couple of minutes. But the best thing about it was the first one, the equaliser, was from Ross Stewart. It was from a corner. Now we haven't scored a corner this season. We've had over 100 corners without scoring, and we finally scored one. And then the second one came from a 25-yarder from our centre half, who's also coincidentally our right back, our left back, and our midfielder. But like whatever,
just whatever he fancies playing then.
Yeah, Luke O'Nien will play wherever he's told and do a good job. But I think I spoke on like our podcast in the review show, and like I jokingly said with the Shrewsbury fan on the podcast, any of us really care, and so on and so forth, and had a bit of a laugh about it. But we said, like, you know, if there's going to be a result, it would be good to have a win because it will continue like that momentum that we've got. We're on good form, which I'm sure we'll come on to. And I think to win a game in that manner is probably the best way to win a game that ultimately doesn't matter that much in terms of keeping the momentum going and adding a bit of extra belief going into your league games.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good way to end a game, isn't it? You're going to end on a high and you're going to go into the next game wanting to keep that going, whereas that's the complete opposite of what we had, where we got gifted a goal, sort of comfortable first half, 1-0, and then decided we fancied playing Bristol again in like over a week's time and just didn't turn up for the second half, really. Plus, Swans Bristol is a little bit of a like thing these days, apparently, where they like to have fights after the match. So I haven't seen that much police at a football match in a long time. Let's just say that. Carnage in the park on the way home. I had to walk the long way around in the pouring rain, so that was lovely. Just to get back to the car. After the second half, which was boring, I'll be quite frank. So, yeah, lovely trip on Sunday. And also it was an early one, so it was like 12:30. So it was like, oh, well, I probably should have just enjoyed my Sunday instead. But anyway, we move on. And what's most frustrating, I guess, from Swans is like we mentioned on your podcast, 4-0 against Watford, narrow loss against Burnley, where like we did make life hard for ourselves, but then came back into the game well and gave them a good game. And then you go and like can't be Bristol. So we go on to Sunderland now, going up to Sunderland away. So what team's going to turn up? I'm not sure. So we played like a full team in the cup. I don't know how many changes you would have made. Obviously, you've been on a good run of form, which is what I wanted to perhaps touch on now. So in your last, I got your last 7 games up on the screen here, and you've only lost 1 in your last 7 in the league, with 2 draws, so that's 4 wins. Really good time to start in form, I think. In the middle of January, you've got the transfer season. Good time to start getting a run of form, heading up the right end of the table, maybe going into the back end of the season now. So how is Sunderland feeling about where your season's going and how you're playing at the moment, and where do you think you can go for the rest of the year?
I think it's very much like one of those, it's the catchphrase, isn't it? Everything's coming up Millhouse for the Simpson fans among us. It's been a really weird season. I think I spoke about it before. Like, if you'd said to me, we'd lose our manager 4 games into Stoke, which I still have to say twice. He went to Stoke.
How's Stoke doing?
Not very well. 18th, I think. Bless him. He might be regretting that now. I'm sure he won't tell that to the reporters.
Oh, they're looking over their shoulder a little bit, aren't they?
It'd be a shame if he went down. Not they, him. I think after that, not only that, obviously it was a big blow on a serious note. It was a big blow to lose Alex Neil. He did a really good job for us, and I'll always be thankful to him for that, for getting us out of that hellhole that was League One. Ross Stewart got injured for 3 months, 2 games after that, and you just need to look at Ross Stewart's stats. I think goals to minute ratio, he's got the best in the league, or at least the second best. He's phenomenal. I don't think there's many strikers in this league that touch him. I think he's all around plays fantastic, and we lost him for 3 months. And then 3 games after we lost him for 3 months, we lost Ellis Sims for like 9 games or 11 games after that. And as you saw, when we came up, we had to play Jack Clark up front, and we kept just chucking random midfielders up front to see which one worked until they came back. And then I think if you look through our form, since Ross Stewart and Ellis Sims have come back, that's where the uplift has happened. Lo and behold, Ellis Sims got recalled after he scored 2 goals in 2 games. So there's another kind of blow that we had. But we've continued on. I think there's no frustration from Sunderland fans. There's really not. But like there is a kind of like, oh, I wonder what would have happened if Ellis Sims and Ross Stewart didn't get injured, because we're not that far off the playoffs. It's a tight league, but was a few games where we played, like, could we have potentially got a point at Swansea if Ross Stewart had played? Could we got that second goal? Like, we had 2-0 draws against Blackpool and Preston where we were far the better side, but we evidently didn't have a striker. Could we have won both those games? Then you're adding 4 points on, and all of a sudden you're looking at the table, and it's all if buts and maybes. But I wouldn't say anyone's frustrated. Ultimately, it's been a real... Not that we don't have confidence in the players that we have, but I think we've been shocked at how this league doesn't have that much in it that is to fear, really. I think...
Yeah, I agree. I think nobody really is like... There's two teams in the two automatics, and then nobody wants to take it by the scruff of the neck underneath, and it's just a massive like dogfight from third place down to like, I don't know, 18th or something stupid, where I think what the table looks like now, it could be like upside down come the end of the season from those positions. It probably won't be. The guys are under playoffs, few of them will probably stay there, but there's definitely one or two positions there up for grabs from all of those teams. Like I couldn't put money on who's gonna actually decide they want to put a run of form together, because people seem to put a couple of games, like yourselves are doing now maybe, and then they go the other way for a couple of games. You look at QPR did that quite spectacularly recently, haven't they? They've sort of slowed it down now, but I think they lost something stupid like 6 games in a row. So any team that looked good at one point in the season, Reading were up there for a long time. It's just so up and down. I think it's one of the tightest I've seen in a while. I don't know what that says about the league. I think I got my opinions. I think a lot of it comes from the post-COVID effect of maybe lack of money. A lot of free transfers this season. Players running their contracts are moving that way, loan signings. And it's the sort of players they're moving between championship clubs. You're recycling the same player base on free transfers, so all the good talent then gets snapped upwards, and I feel like that's what we're seeing in such a mixed mid-table. So yeah, it's interesting, but I'm not sure how easy it would be for that team in the playoffs that does get promoted. I think it might be a tough year next year.
I think you've only got to look at... I mean, we played West Brom in what was after the World Cup break. I think it was our second or third game after the World Cup, and they were 21st at the time. And I remember speaking to Lewis, who was doing the podcast with me, and I said, "Oh, what's your ambitions this season?" He was like, "Oh, well, a couple of wins, we could get the playoff." And I remember thinking, "You're 21st," and I looked at the table and I was like, "Oh God, if you got a couple of wins,
1 point off now."
And Middlesbrough they beat us earlier in the season, and I think it was like the second win of the season or something like that, and they were still like languishing down the bottom. They've won a couple of games. They haven't won every game. They've won a couple of games. They've improved their form basically, and they're sitting now in 5th, I think. So the league is just mad. But I think from a Sunderland perspective, that's what we're looking at. We're saying, you know what, there's absolutely zero pressure on us. Because I think I said at the start of the season, if we finish 15th, I'll snap your hands off. Now I'd be a bit disappointed if we finish 15th, but there's a real opportunity for Sunderland to get there. And there's some fans that are saying, "Oh, I wouldn't want to go up twice." Well, I very rarely say someone's wrong, but you're wrong. We definitely should go up twice, because that would be great, and it would mean I think we'd be the only team that got double relegated and then double promoted, which would be great. But for me, like, that's our aim. That's where we want to go in the end. That's where Sunderland have been historically. I'm happy to be patient with it, but if there's half a chance of us getting up, just get us up. Like, we're a big club. Like, I think if we got up into the Premier League, we're not going to automatically come immediately back down. We've got some really good young players, some of them with Premier League experience. Like, why not? I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. Don't even think we'll finish in the playoffs, but why not just try for it? Why not?
Yeah. No, I think anyone would be silly to reject going up, no matter where you are. Like, if you stay, the financial stuff that comes with it, if you're sensible, just even if you go straight back down, you can set yourself up for another go where you have a better chance. So
100%.
I think it'd be silly for anyone to like reject it. But again, can't put my finger on who it will be. You've got Watford in 4th place with 11 wins. Reading in 13th place with 11 wins. It's tight. Yeah, it's tight.
I mean, even if you look at Blackburn, like Blackburn are in 3rd. They've scored 30 goals. They've conceded 30 goals. Sunderland are in 8th. We scored 38 and conceded 29. So we scored more goals, conceded less, but we are 5 points as less.
We're 15th and we've scored 36 and conceded 36. So same goal difference as third place. And we scored more as well. And it's just not that that's an amazing amount of goals. I said we struggled to score. Actually, I didn't notice this before, but we've actually we're in like the top 8 or something for goal scorers. It might even be less than that. I'm shocked.
I think you seem to.
I'm surprised.
You seem to score in like one
in
game
comebacks, basically.
like 3 3s and 4 0s. I think.
Yeah, we concede 3, and it's like, oh, gotta get a draw now.
Oh no, not again.
Yeah, so it's not for the right reasons that we're scoring the goals because we're not getting the points as a result of it. But anyway, that's I'm sure the Swans fans have heard us talk about that plenty in our podcast. Okay, going into this game then, talked a bit about your form, your season, and it could, maybe it'll be a good end. Maybe you'll get there. Anyone could work their way in. I was having a quick look at your team, and I think I got a couple of pages on Facebook that I lurk around in championship stuff just to see what people are saying. I have seen a couple of people shouting about the youngster you got on loan from Man United, Amad Diallo.
Yeah.
Has he been a really good signing?
Outstanding. Brilliant footballer. The kind of footballer you pay to watch. He's Premier League, 100% Premier League. I mean, one of our biggest worries is that Man United are going to recall him back like Ellis Sims got recalled back by Everton on New Year's Eve, which was a nice New Year's Eve present for them. And he's gone back to Everton to sit on the bench. And I don't know if
I think they need help, don't they?
Oh, I mean, it's annoying because they've kind of stunted his progress, in my opinion, because they've brought him back to, as you say, give a bit of help and sit him on the bench. But I feel like Diallo could realistically go back next season and make a bit of an impact, at least from the bench for Man United, because his close control is just fabulous. And I think when he first came in, you kind of thought we had this player that was silky and maybe wouldn't try very hard and just want to do all the showboy stuff, but he absolutely works his knackers off. He does all the defensive work as well, but going forward, I mean, you've probably seen some of his goals this season. He scored one against Wigan recently, which was about 35 yards out, and it was about 100 mile an hour. He scored a fantastic goal against Birmingham. And as soon as he got games under his belt, he just has become one of our most important players. He's built up a really good relationship with Patrick Roberts. And I think, when you follow those second-tier pages, Sunderland fans will know about this, but we scored some absolutely stunning goals this season, like one-touch football. And him or Patrick Roberts have been very much part of it. He's just a great player. He's a player that I can categorically guarantee you we will not hang on to at the end of the season. And I think that just happens sometimes. We've had Johnny Evans on loan from Man United about 2 decades ago. It feels like, I think about 15 years ago, and you could instantly feel like he was, too good for the level he was at. And we had him at like the Championship, and then we had him on loan again when we were in the Premier League. And we also had Danny Welbeck, and I think if Danny Welbeck hadn't had a lot of injuries that he'd had, he played for England, he played in major tournaments, and you could instantly tell that he was a higher level of quality than what we had at the time. And Amad Diallo's 100% in that. He's in the category, 100%.
I'm not saying it's the same level, but obviously we had Conor Gallagher a couple of seasons ago, and I was quite intrigued to see that he got into the England World Cup squad, for example. So in just 2 years, I think, since he was playing Championship for us, which is it's always nice to have those. I mean, if you want to go back to memory lane, we had Frank Lampard on loan before he made his name for himself, a little baby-faced Frank Lampard. So
did it right, didn't he? In the end,
done it right, didn't he? Yeah, he got on well. So that's
one
always one
trophies.
for the memory books. Not a lot of people know. Yeah,
Barini.
Yeah, of course.
Big loan signing for both of us. Unfortunately,
Renato Sanchez. He was he was awful
quite as
for
good.
us. That was probably one of the worst loan signings in Premier League history. But it's one of them ones. It's one of them ones that no one would have cared if it was someone you didn't know, because you knew it was Renato Sanchez who had won the European Golden Boy, and then he didn't perform at all. It's always going to be like gone down in history as one of the worst signings in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just all the glitz and none of the glamour.
Yeah, he was crap.
All the glitz when he was on the papers on the day he signed, and then he just never wanted to be here. Did he? Just like. he's just a kid at the time, I think. Just whatever. Just I'm a good footballer. When I
Bless
come
him.
to Swansea and play football, just want the money. Literally. Anyway, Patrick Roberts, you mentioned. I think I asked you about him last time, but he's definitely one that consistently seems to play and do well for you.
Yeah, I love him. Again, Patrick's like one of those players that is like Diallo. You pay to watch. I think people probably seen him when he was at Fulham as a kid, and then obviously went to City for big money, and then had loads of loan moves. Did really well at Celtic for a couple of seasons. He's a lovely little footballer, but I think he's 24, 25, and he definitely lost his way. I think he'd had about 1 million loan moves before he came to us, and we were linked to him. And a few people had said, "No, obviously we'll know what he's like. He's highly rated, like, but he's done nothing at Borough. Been on loan at Norwich. He was on loan at Troyes in France when we signed him last January. And when he first came, he had all the tricks and the skills and that. And I thought, is he going to be a bit of a show pony that's got like, all fart and knee shite, as we would say. But I think he's found a home. He played a big part in us getting promoted. He scored a memorable last minute equaliser / winner in the second leg of the playoffs, which I think everyone will remember till the day we die, because it was massive in terms of the context of our history and getting us out of that league. And I think he's moved into this season. Originally, didn't really play at the start. He didn't really get in the team. Jack Clark took his place, and gradually he's come back into the team and become a real integral part in it. And the partnership he's building up with Diallo is just lovely. If anyone gets a chance to see his goal against Wigan, the finish takes a deflection, so it kind of takes the shine off it a little bit, but it's like one-touch football between him and Diallo, where I think I said on the preview podcast, if you don't mind me swearing, he just took the piss out of Wigan, just literally took the piss. And more wonderfully for us, it was James McLean who was playing left back that day, so it was him he took the piss out of.
Come on to that.
Yeah, we're not friends, shall we say? I think we don't necessarily get on with James, but yeah, he's a wonderful footballer, and I'm really pleased that, I suppose, for his own career, that he's away from Sunderland a little bit, that he's doing well and showing a bit of promise and potential, and kind of like being the player that I always hoped he would be at my football club. And I think he'll have a massive role towards the end of the season.
Yeah, he's. I mean, I played a lot of Football Manager. I used to when I was a bit younger, and he was always one that was highly rated on there. So I know that for sure. And when he went to Man City, and he's like, he's always got good ratings. Why is he not getting a better team? But maybe it will come true.
Yeah, he's not doing too bad, and he's definitely got. It feels like he's been around forever, doesn't it? But he's got youth in his side. I think he's 24, 25.
25, I think. I just checked it. 25.
No matter what he does, that last-minute equaliser at Sheffield Wednesday that got us to Wembley, obviously went on a win. I think I'll just love him forever for that. I actually think he's my fiance's screensaver at the moment, so I don't know what that says about my love life, but nonetheless, I guess she likes him.
Well, as long as he keeps scoring the goals, I guess you can pass on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so going into the game against Swansea then, obviously the reverse fixture, we won that one 2-1. It wasn't necessary, it was a good game. You perhaps could have got something out of it in the end. We had a good first half and maybe let off the gas a bit in the second half, and you had a good go at coming back. Bearing in mind you didn't have your strikers, as you've already mentioned, a little bit of a not normal front line for you then. But this time that won't be a problem. So how are you? What are you feeling going into this game? You're home, perhaps you've got a bit of form behind you, and perhaps got a more full squad available to pick from when it comes to the match as well. So how are you feeling ahead of the reverse fixture?
It's really weird because I feel like, and trust me, it's not a regular thing with Sunderland fans going into a game feeling confident, but we talk about it on the review shows that we do, and it's like I'm starting to speak and the opening line will be like, oh, it's another positive podcast. This is weird. It's kind of an air of calmness around Sunderland, and trust me, that never happens. We're on a good form. I think I went down to Blackpool on New Year's Day, and Blackpool are not doing very well, and I think I was confident going down there. And to be fair, second half we absolutely destroyed them, but we just couldn't get a second goal. But none of us came back going, oh God, I'm so angry, like this is horrendous. It's kind of like this season's almost like a free hit for us in many ways, and that's kind of the benefit of it. The one niggly thing for us sort of at the start of the season when things felt a bit rosy were, outside of the strikers and the manager leaving and all that kind of stuff, was we weren't winning our games at home. We were not getting hammered at home. Like we went 2-0 up against Burnley, then they pulled it back and won 4-2, but Burnley are on another planet in this level, I think.
I just seen how many goals they've scored. It's crazy.
They're just too good for this level. I think Company's just signed really well. But we pushed them for like 45 minutes, went 2-0 up. We hit the bar about 4 times against Norwich and got beat 1-0, but we weren't winning games. We weren't getting results at home, but we've won 2 of our last 3. So suddenly, when you win 2 of your last 3 games, and it was against Millwall, we beat 3-0, who were, I think, 6th off top at the time. We beat Blackburn 2-1 at home. We were the first team to concede first against Blackburn and win. Every time they've scored first, they've won. Every time they've conceded first, they've lost. Against us, it went the other way around. So really confident, without being like, oh yeah, we need to win this game. We should like swat Swansea aside. I think we know Swansea are a good team, and it'll be interesting to see a side that like more possession of, like to have possession of the football come to the Stadium Light, because there's not many teams like that. Like Burnley were like that, and we battered them first half. They battered us second half and scored more goals than us. That was basically it. We're quite a possession-based side. You know, like Tony Mowbray likes attractive one-touch football. I think, although it's not similar in style for Swansea, it is possession-based in Russell Martin's style. So it'll be quite interesting to see. I think I remember a game, God, I want to say this was about 2008, 2009. Brendan Rodgers was in charge of Swansea. And I remember you had about 70 to 80% possession, like constantly had the ball, but just sat on the halfway line. And we had Martin O'Neill in charge, and we scored 2 absolute screamers. Sessegnon and Craig Gardner scored. So it'll be interesting to see if like
wasn't that like the first year we were in the Premier League, I think.
It was, yeah. I remember
2011, I think it was. Yeah, that was. I remember that game. It was annoying. It was very, very annoying.
Brendan
because
Rodgers
those sort of teams always were our own doing, where it was like Tony Pulis or someone like that, Martin O'Neill, Tony Pulis, where you'd have the ball, but you guys just like, I don't want to say hoofball, but like Martin O'Neill.
We were more direct then.
Yeah, more direct. And just all the nice tiki-taka touchy stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's fine. You keep doing that. You can't get through the height of the back line or the roughness of the defense, and we're gonna get stuck in a little bit, and then we'll just kick it over the top, and then our big guys are gonna like bully your defenders, and
it's a good period. We had, I think we scored about like 7 30-yarders in the space of like 8 games in that period. It was mad. I specifically remember Brendan Rodgers coming out and saying it was good for the people of Sunderland to see a side like Swansea, which was quite funny at the time. But that is Brendan Rodgers. He has
Did he say that? Yeah.
Something along that line. Yeah, it was quite funny actually.
Bitter then, probably.
Oh well, that's Brendan. And he's annoyed me tonight because he's just lost against Newcastle as well. So I'm actually not going to apologise for that. But I'm wondering if, like, maybe, I mean, we play very different football to that. We're much more one-touch possession based. So, you know, remember in that game, it's not like 2 clash of styles. It'll be 2 styles that are not similar, but like not too dissimilar in style. So it could be a really nice, attractive game to watch. I think I've already said my prediction on my podcast, and I don't think I'll differ from it. But I think it'll be a case of 2 good teams fighting it out. I think potentially both defenses have the potential to concede, but not loads. And I think both forward lines have the potential to score, but no more than 2 each maximum, I think. So a 1-1 or 2-2, I would like to think we can win. I'm confident, but I think I would be content with a draw, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, my prediction on your podcast, I'll keep it consistent as well. I said 2-2. I said it wouldn't surprise me at all if you get off to maybe a better start and we got a fight to come back and sneak a point, because that seems to be quite a familiar story for us these days. Before we finish then, I do want to just ask, like, from the Swans team, is there 1 or 2 names you could pick out that you would be wary of or be looking out to see if they can do any damage, or who would you want to perhaps say you need to stop?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I know he hasn't had the best season for years and compared to like last season, but like Joe Perreault's obviously his goals record over the past couple of seasons kind of indicate that the guy knows where the back of the net is. I've always been really impressed by Martins, but I don't think he's going to play because he fancies a move to Burnley by the looks of it.
He's not going to play.
Yeah, didn't expect him to play, so I think we'll probably get away with that. It doesn't look like he played against Bristol City, but I was always actually quite impressed by Harry Darlin when he was at MK Dons. I don't know how he's done for you.
He came on at half time. They did like the 45 minutes for the centre back, 45 minutes for the centre back sort of premeditated sub.
Yeah, I think he was always quite good at. He obviously scored against us earlier in the season, but I think he scored against us for MK Dons as well. But he always looked very comfortable at League One, and it wasn't a surprise that he moved up. But if I had to pinpoint one player, I think Matt Grimes has probably been the one that's like consistently put in the numbers, and I think it doesn't matter what you say really. I'm not a statistics man. I don't really tend to use it that often. But ultimately, that's all that matters is results, points, how many goals you scored and how many assists you get. And Matt Grimes is consistently around the top from assists and stuff like that. And I think he's got 6 for you this season. We spoke about him
I think
on
he's
your
a top
podcast.
assister.
Yeah, I think so. We spoke about him on your podcast, and you kind of made that fact about him as well with sort of, I think was it forward passing?
Yeah, I'll get it up again now because I don't think I was going to read it out at some point, and I was. So after the Bristol game, it came out that Matt Grimes has completed 282 line-breaking passes in the Championship this season, which is more than any player in Europe's top 5 leagues. So it's kind of like an argument against the one of the biggest criticisms a lot of Swans fans, I guess, that don't, in my opinion, appreciate what he does, where they say all he does is pass sideways and backwards.
His numbers are there. I think for me, I would probably look at the team that you are. I've watched you more highlights than I have on I've seen 1 or 2 games and I've been in the house and stuff like that. But naturally, you tend to only watch your own team or a team you cover or whatever it is. But I think Swansea are obviously possession based. I know exactly what Russell Morton likes to do, how he likes to play out from the back. And I think there's always somebody in the middle that's really important. You'll obviously have Joe Allen in the pivot who's getting on. But then the ball after that seems to be towards Grimes, which seems to be the ball that if you're going to score a goal, comes from him 9 times out of 10. So for me, Grimes, but I'm pleased Martins isn't playing. Obviously, I live up in Scotland. I'm English, but most of my family, my fiance is Scottish, and I've seen him absolutely destroy Scotland, much to the amusement of myself in the pub, but not necessarily to everyone else in the pub supporting Scotland that day. So I'm pleased he's not playing.
Yeah, Obafemi, the thing is, he's like, we actually miss him a little bit because we haven't got any pace in our team, and he's obviously a bit quick. Offer something different, and right now we haven't got anyone else. There's no one there. There's no one with a bit of pace, and I think that's one of the things that maybe we're struggling with at the moment. So
I've also just noticed I've been calling him Martins. That's not his name at all. I'm thinking
it's Martin Obafemi.
Martin Obafemi, of course it is.
What's Obafemi Martins is? Yeah, people get a mixed
former Newcastle player. So
you got Newcastle on the brain because they just won.
I try not to have them on my brain at any point, but please do forgive me, Mr. Obafemi. I did not.
I'm sure he will. I mean, he's on his way out, to be honest. So I doubt he's even
got
a bat on eyelid. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame it didn't work out. I say it didn't work out. Like, is it not because it worked out, or is it because he wants to be greedy? That's the question in this. So I feel like he could have made it work if he wanted to. Just the money comes and you want to run, don't you? So apparently it's the same at Southampton, so we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
And he was in the academy, so I mean that's setting up for a good career, that is. Anyway, I'm not bitter at all. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. And again, you wouldn't believe how many people come on to talk about the team we're going to play. And when I ask them about the team, Matt Grimes every single time is the name that comes up, and just says it all for me. So again, you're adding to I think he's underappreciated by Swans fans. So another example. So thank you very much for coming on. Would you like to remind everyone where they can find your brilliantly named podcast?
Of course they can. I don't know if I agree with you on that, but nonetheless. So it's at What the Falk Pod on Twitter, which is where I kind of have my inane ramblings and talk a lot about Sunderland. I like to think I'm pleasant to opposition fans as well. So trust me, you can come in peace and I'll give you the peace back. Outside of that, it's like YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, and Apple are kind of the main 4. But I believe I'm on other things as well, because I get those random emails from people telling me they can make my podcast better on Podchaser or whatever. And I keep telling them no.
I think if you get like a distribution, it just goes to all these random ones, doesn't it?
Does it? Yeah, something like that. I mean,
you're probably on Google Podcasts and like Amazon Podcasts and all this stuff. I don't know. I lose track. I check sometimes and I'm like, am I supposed to go and edit the details here? I just leave it as it is.
I'm like that. If someone, I just talk rubbish on a podcast for half an hour every Saturday night and every Tuesday evening. So if anyone wants to tune in, the you're more than welcome to. Especially the review shows might be quite interesting. I like listening back to opposition fans discussing Sunderland when you don't watch them every week, and I think it can be quite fun. So hopefully we can do that for you after the game.
Yeah, and I'll check out to see how you discuss our show, and depending on what it's like. Actually, we'll see if we get thumped. I might just pretend it never happened. So
avoid.
But yeah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Good luck, I guess, for the rest of the season. And as you said to me, not too much for the weekend, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, yeah, good luck for the rest of the season. I think the playoffs are there. We'll see what happens. Maybe you can sneak in, and that'll be a nice little romantic story for Sunderland after the couple of seasons you've had, especially with all the Netflix drama and that. Wonder if they pick this one up after double promotions. Put that on Netflix instead.
Yeah, get that one on Netflix, because then the chant "We Saw You Crying" on Netflix will cease to exist. It'll be "We Saw You Cheering" a lot on Netflix.
It can still be crying tears of joy.
Yeah, well, yeah, it can have a double meaning. Yeah, go on, Put that on Netflix. I'll take it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Graham, and I shall see you in the next one. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for all the opposition previews going forward, the ones that I managed to actually get out these days. But thanks, as always. Let us know in the comments what you think the score will be in the match on the weekend, and who scares you from Sunderland. Let us know, and we shall see you in the next one. Thank you very much, and catch you next time.